Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassarre with TeddyBaldassarre.com. In this video, we're going to be looking at the new Oris Aquis with the caliber 400s in it at 41mm, looking at this different trio of different colors. So in this video, we'll take a closer look at these watches, things to consider at the end before buying. If you are interested in purchasing this watch, we are a full authorized dealer of Oris watches on TeddyBaldassarre.com, so link will be in the description, as well as a place to go and book a call with one of our watch specialists if you have any questions before purchasing. But guys, let's jump into the video, take a closer look at these watches. When it comes to value in watchmaking between $2,000 and $5,000, Oris has to be one of the leading brands in that price category, no question. Where the brand has made a ton of strides in the last 6 to 12 months has been with their newly unveiled caliber 400. That was first unveiled underneath the Aquis family, then being introduced in a few other models like the limited edition Diver 65 Carl Brashear. But ever since its launch, there's been a lot of anticipation about what would be next from the caliber 400. And one that was on a short list, I think, for many people was just seeing more Aquises equipped with this specific movement. I think many, considering that the first variation was a 43.5mm case, wanted something that was a little bit smaller, and now we have exactly that with the new Aquis caliber 400s with the 41.5mm case. So these watches have just been released in a variety of different color options. They are available on TeddyBaldassarre.com. We are a full authorized dealer of Oris. So in this video, we'll take a little deeper dive into the wearability of these pieces, and of course talk about the caliber 400 in more detail as well, and finish with some closing thoughts. Looking back at the 43.5mm Oris Aquis, when talking about it on wrist, it certainly wore smaller than that as a huge byproduct of the integrated bracelet, but it still had some presence to it and made it a little bit difficult for smaller wrists out there. Now with the 41.5mm case, you have a slightly smaller lug-to-lug measurement down to 48.5mm for this variant. While that might not seem like much, it does provide a huge difference for the smaller wrists out there and much more room for the comfortable fit. In regards to how this one is going to wear in comparison, I would say it wears closer to a 40mm dive watch, basically right in the Goldilocks zone for what I would say would be appropriate for the mass majority of wrists out there. And because of the way this one wears, I would imagine this one is going to be a bit more popular for the size for most shoppers out there. Now the thickness is identical to the larger model, sitting at 13.5mm, which I would say is pretty standard for a dive watch with an automatic movement within. Satin finishes are along the profile of the case and are paired with high polished bezels along the edge and transitions to a high polished finish to the top of the lugs. From there, the integrated 3-link bracelet features high polish on the outer link and satin inner links, and tapering down to just 16mm at the clasp. The clasp on this watch is very good, comes with a 2-button release and will open from that lock position when you press both of them. Very secure when it is locked at that point. Inside the clasp, you will have 3 push pin micro adjustments as well as a new diver extension link, providing a bit more room for wetsuit wear. Sizing the links are secured with screws, so really nice to see here rather than push pins, really adding to that more premium finish of this piece. And the Aquis just bracelet design in general is one of the best in the price categories, and I would say almost sets the standard for the price range. The bracelet as a whole is incredibly comfortable. You'll have no fear of pinching any type of skin or hair here as well, and on those hot summer days, because of the gaps between the links, should offer some great breathability. Also on these new Aquis models in both sizes feature quick release system on the back of the top link to quickly adjust and change out the bracelet to different strap options. Now I do want to mention that this is an integrated bracelet style, so for those that are not familiar, third-party straps are not going to be as easy, of course, to accommodate. That said, you're probably not going to want to take this one off its factory bracelet or the other straps that would come with it. Heading our attention back to the case, the screw-down crown is flanked by satin finish crown guards, which help provide the Aquis with 300 meters of water resistance. When the crown is unscrewed from the first position into the winding position, it features a hacking second hand, allowing for you to accurately set the watch. A nice little touch to the crown guards here is also the contrasting proprietary screw securing them to the case. And another area where the Aquis really offers great value is with the ceramic bezel insert, which has been a feature for the collection for several years now. The ceramic, of course, is highly resistant to scratches and has been used by upmarket brands such as Omega and Rolex in their bezels as well. The glossy ceramic insert comes with white markers and numerals, giving it excellent readability, and the bezel rotates unidirectional with 120 clicks, which are crisp and exhibit no play when being operated. As we take a look at the crystal, Oris provides the Aquis with a slightly domed crystal with anti-reflective coating on the underside that covers a stunning, rich sunburst dial. Now, as mentioned at the beginning, these do come in a variety of different dial colors, a green, anthracite, and blue as being those notable examples. But just to speak to one of these, we'll look at the green because that really has been the trend of 2021 releases as the featured color. The dial almost has a fume-like look to it, as with other dial colors from this collection. It's going from its brightest color in the center of the dial and then eventually darkening to almost black as it reaches the outer edges. Interestingly, not a color change to the dial itself, but rather a shadow that is cast from the rehaut, which rises above the dial to hold the crystal. The dial features superluminova filled hour hands as well as specific hour markers along the outside that are applied, except for the 6 o'clock where you will find the date window. The date window is black with white printing, and it fits nicely along the shadowy edge. One interesting note about this size variation is the missing pressure resistant line at the bottom of the dial, which you will only find with the 43mm variant. But as a whole, the elements of what makes this watch an Aquis is very much unchanged even from the previous variants, but where this one does change, especially from those housing a third-party Sellita caliber, is going to be the movement inside of this one. Now, despite the fascination with mechanical watches, typically buyers don't look in the direction of movements probably as much as they should. But as mentioned, the big leap here that Oris is making is with the movement. Now, Oris for some time has been one of the largest users of Sellita movements, and when it comes to a brand like Oris, an independent one at that is creating a good amount of watches per year, this creates much less uncertainty when it comes to supply with going with Sellita. And when it comes to robustness and reliability and also the ease of servicing for watches between $1,000 and $4,000, Sellita makes a ton of sense and is one of the leaders and probably one of the most respected manufacturers of Swiss movements. But it is clear that Oris has been trying to up their game in what they're delivering within their watches, and the Caliber 400 that we can actually see with an open case back here providing full view of the movement within is certainly going to be the star of the show when looking at this timepiece. So similar to watches in this price range for the movement, it's rather utilitarian with its finish, has a fully exposed balance, large jewels which will aid in the elongating of the service interval, a hollowed out sine rotor that deviates from the more traditional ball bearing system which you see at the central point of the rotor, on which a metal stud runs through a lubricated sleeve, and 2 large mainspring barrels that help this watch achieve its very impressive 120 hours or 5-day power reserve. Also, from a design perspective, a fun element of this movement is going to be the Oris bear, the mascot of the brand, that you can actually see when rotating the rotor to a certain degree, with 2 of the mainspring barrels being the ears. And kind of some fun attention to detail that's kind of hidden. I would imagine that this was an intended just production by Oris and what they were doing. But if you're familiar with just the brand and what they do with a lot of their collaborations and limited editions, this is nothing new. It's really about the details when it comes to Oris and making subtle nods to the brand. The movement here is going to fill up a bit more of the case compared to the original Aquis Caliber 400 that we saw several months back, but I think it does fill out the case a bit more and just does show the benefit and usability of this movement to fit a variety of different cases. So it looks right at home within this 41.5mm case. This movement also gets some nice upgrades in the defense against magnetism with its silicone escapement wheel and a silicone anchor, which you can actually see the escapement wheel and pallet fork passing along energy when examining close, given the greenish shade of the pallet fork. Oris is doing quite a bit of testing in regards to these movements, one being the movement was tested to still run with less than 10 seconds of deviation, even after being exposed to magnetic fields equaling 2,250 Gauss, and under normal conditions, Oris states that the movements are going to clock in with accuracy of -30 to +5 seconds a day, which when testing several of these on a time graph are found to actually be a conservative compared to the actuals, but very nice performance out of these movements as well from an accuracy standpoint. However, nice packaged claims of a new movement certainly come with some questions about what is the reliability of these and how can I look at this from a long-term perspective. The good news is here, when purchasing these watches from an authorized dealer like our site, TeddyBaldassarre.com, Oris is backing these with a 10-year warranty for these movements. So that should give all the peace of mind behind the claims that there also is going to be a manufacturer there that is going to be able to, of course, respond to any concerns or anything that rises up. And this is how you respond to creating a new movement in the marketplace. Don't make lofty claims without backing up what you're preaching, and Oris is doing that with this movement. In terms of a high-level overview, this movement operates at 28,800 vibrations per hour or 4 Hz, does feature hacking and hand winding, so hacking stopping the second hand, when you pull out that crown to the farthest position. This movement also exceeds the standard required by ISO 764 Enhanced Anti-Magnetic Standard, and also again comes with a very impressive power reserve, 120 hours. All right, so now to unpack, taking a closer look at these new Aquis models. Simply put, the Aquis has been a watch that I have been a fan of for quite some time, and seeing the new caliber 400 starting to be unveiled a bit more is just a winning combination. The previous 43mm option, I think, sized some people out, so that was probably for some people a bit of a strange initial launch, considering that it probably wouldn't be as mass appealing given its size. But at 41.5mm for this new version, I see these as being probably the more popular in terms of selling watches out there from the new Aquis line when it comes to containing the caliber 400, no question. The caliber 400 has also been in the market for a bit more time now. It has been unveiled in several different models, so Oris, I feel like, is just going to continue to get more confident in utilizing it as a base and getting even more creative with how it's going to be executed and cased up with different watches. Honestly, guys, it's just simply a no-brainer that Oris did this. I think it's a welcome new release from the brand. Sure, it is in a competitive price range, but in terms of the wearability of this piece, I think many people are going to look in the direction of this one much more. And when it comes to the movement, you're talking 120-hour power reserve, up spec, great accuracy, as well as a 10-year warranty. That's pretty much all the peace of mind you can ask for when looking at a watch. And when it comes to a brand like Oris and what they're delivering, they're a brand with not the pretentious tone that many brands out there have, instead just creating solid watches for the money. All right, guys, well, thank you again so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. If you're also interested in purchasing this watch, link in the description to TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of all the brands that we carry. Also, if you have any further questions that were not answered in this video, please do not hesitate to book a time with one of our watch specialists on our website. But guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.